All right, so today we're diving into something pretty fundamental.
Yeah.
It's how you think about your own abilities
Hmm.
and how that actually shapes what you're able to learn and achieve.
Mindset, yeah.
Exactly, mindset.
That's huge.
Specifically, we're talking about the concepts of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Right.
And these ideas, they come from the work of Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford.
Yeah.
And in this deep dive, what we want to do is kind of show you how these different mindsets can really impact almost every area of your life.
Yeah, it's like the lens you use to look at yourself and the world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it affects everything. So let's break it down a little bit.
Okay, so let's start with the fixed mindset.
Okay.
So if you have a fixed mindset, you basically believe that your intelligence, your talents, the kind of core things about you are pretty much set.
Yeah, you're born with it or you're not.
Yeah, you either have it or you don't.
Right.
So if you hit a wall or you fail at something with this mindset, it can feel like really personal, like proof that you just weren't born with the right stuff.
Yeah, like it's a judgment on you as a person,
Yeah.
not just on your performance in that one thing.
So with a fixed mindset, it's like you have this certain amount of intelligence or talent,
Right.
and that's it. That's your limit.
Like a finite amount.
Yeah, and challenges can feel really risky because they might expose that lack that you perceive.
Yeah, like you don't want to try something new because what if you're bad at it?
Exactly.
And then people will know that you don't have that natural talent.
Right. And feedback can feel really threatening
Oh, yeah.
because it feels like it's about you, not about the work.
Hmm.
Okay, so now let's flick that around and talk about the growth mindset.
Okay.
So this is the belief that your abilities aren't fixed.
Right.
They can be developed through effort, through learning, through persistence, even when things get tough.
It's not about where you start. It's about the journey.
Yeah, so if you stumble or you make a mistake with this mindset, it's not a sign of failure.
Right.
It's just part of the process.
Yeah. You're learning, you're growing.
So imagine approaching a really difficult task with this mindset.
Okay.
Instead of thinking, oh, this is going to reveal my limitations,
Yeah.
you might think, this is a chance for me to stretch myself, to learn something new.
To get better.
Yeah. Effort isn't a sign that you're not naturally gifted.
Right.
It's actually the thing that helps you get better.
Exactly.
So really at the core, it comes down to this. Your mindset is that lens
Mhm.
through which you're seeing challenges, feedback, even successes.
Yeah. It colors your whole experience.
A fixed mindset says, this is just who you are.
And a growth mindset says, how can I improve?
And this isn't just some feel-good philosophy.
Right.
There's actual science that supports this idea that your brain is way more adaptable than you might think.
Yeah. This is where it gets really cool.
Let's talk about neuroplasticity.
Yeah. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, so it's the brain's ability to reorganize itself, to
Right.
form new connections throughout your life.
And to strengthen those connections over time.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. And it really challenges that fixed mindset idea
Yeah,
because it shows that your brain is not static.
yeah.
It's constantly changing and adapting.
So every time you learn something new,
Mm-hmm.
your brain is literally rewiring itself, creating these new pathways between brain cells.
And those pathways become more efficient the more you use them.
Yeah, so think about like learning a new language
Oh, yeah.
or a musical instrument. At first, it's probably going to feel awkward and difficult.
Right. Like you're fumbling around,
Yeah.
but you keep practicing.
But if you stick with it,
Yeah.
those neural connections get stronger
Mm-hmm.
and eventually it becomes more natural.
Yeah. It's like you're building a muscle,
Exactly.
but it's a brain muscle.
So this biological reality of neuroplasticity
Mhm.
really highlights that potential for growth that we all have.
In almost any area you choose.
And a growth mindset, it aligns perfectly with how our brains actually work.
It embraces that journey of learning and understands that where you are now is not where you have to stay.
So let's say you're facing a challenge
Okay.
and you have that fixed mindset voice in your head.
Uh-oh.
It might say something like, see, I knew you weren't good at this.
Right.
But if you come at it with a growth mindset, you might think, okay, this is tough.
Yeah.
But what are some different ways I can try this?
What can I learn?
What strategies can I use?
Exactly. It's a totally different internal dialogue.
Yeah, so the fixed mindset is asking, am I good enough?
And judging yourself based on that answer
The growth mindset is asking, how can I get better?
is focused on learning and development.
So much more empowering.
You did.
Now let's look at how these mindsets actually play out in real life.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's imagine two students.
Right?
They both get a low grade on a math test.
Classic situation.
The student with the fixed mindset might see that low grade as proof that they're just not a math person.
Right. They'll say, I'm just not good at math.
Yeah, and that can be really discouraging.
It is. It can make you feel helpless.
Yeah, like why even bother trying?
Exactly.
But the student with the growth mindset is going to have a completely different reaction.
Okay. How so?
They might be disappointed in the grade,
Sure.
but they'll see it as feedback.
Okay.
They ask themselves, what went wrong?
What did I miss?
What can I learn from this?
Maybe how should I study differently next time?
Did I not understand the concepts?
Right.
Should I ask for help?
Yeah. It becomes about problem solving.
And this is backed up by research.
Really?
Students with a growth mindset, they tend to put in more effort.
They don't give up easily
They embrace challenges.
because they see them as opportunities to grow.
And they handle criticism way better.
Yeah. Because it's not a personal attack.
It's information.
Exactly.
And studies have shown that these students actually tend to do better academically over time.
So there's a real benefit to having a growth mindset.
It's not just about feeling good,
No, it's about actual results.
but it's not just about students, right?
No, this applies to everyone.
This is about athletes pushing their limits, musicians perfecting their craft, entrepreneurs bouncing back from setbacks, anyone facing challenges and wanting to improve.
Yeah, whether you're on the sports field in the boardroom or just learning a new hobby.
A growth mindset can make a huge difference.
It helps you stay resilient and motivated.
So to really illustrate this, let's look at some real-life examples.
Okay, love those.
You've probably heard the story of Michael Jordan being cut from his high school basketball team.
Oh yeah, classic example.
So for someone with a fixed mindset, that rejection might have been devastating
Yeah, they might have thought, well, I guess I'm just not meant to be a basketball player.
and given up.
Right.
But Jordan, he used it as fuel.
He didn't let it define him.
He worked harder, he practiced more, and he became one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
He had that growth mindset in action.
And another great example is J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah, love her.
She faced tons of rejections from publishers before Harry Potter was finally accepted.
I can't even imagine how discouraging that must have been.
But she kept going. She kept believing in her story.
And in her ability to improve it.
And now Harry Potter is a global phenomenon.
It's incredible.
And there's that famous Thomas Edison quote,
I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
which perfectly sums up the growth mindset approach to failure.
It's not about giving up. It's about learning from your mistakes.
And think about learning any new skill.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to learn a new language and you feel overwhelmed by all the grammar and vocabulary.
Or you're trying to learn an instrument and you're just making a bunch of noise at first.
But instead of saying, I'm just not good at this,
Yeah.
you can break down the challenge into smaller steps.
Find some resources
Practice regularly.
and see those mistakes as part of the process.
Our sources also talk a lot about how important a growth mindset is in education.
Yeah, it's not just about the student's beliefs.
It's about the environment that schools create.
Exactly.
So schools that foster a growth mindset culture,
They see students who are more engaged
and they achieve more.
because they're not afraid to make mistakes.
And the language that teachers use can have a big impact.
Oh yeah, words matter.
So instead of saying, you're so smart,
Which kind of implies that intelligence is fixed.
yeah, a teacher might say, you worked really hard on this.
That emphasizes the effort.
And instead of, you're a natural at this,
They might say you've practiced a lot, and it really shows.
which highlights the role of practice.
So it's about shifting the focus from innate ability to the process of learning.
And these small changes can make a big difference in how kids view their own potential.
It's really powerful.
Now, how about the workplace?
Okay.
How does a growth mindset show up in professional settings?
Well, in a growth mindset workplace,
Yeah.
you're going to see more innovation, more collaboration, more adaptability,
Because people are willing to take risks
and learn from their mistakes.
and give and receive feedback.
Yeah, feedback becomes a valuable tool for growth.
But in a fixed mindset workplace,
It can be a lot tougher.
yeah, people might hide mistakes.
They're afraid of being judged,
Feedback is something to be feared.
and new challenges are avoided
Yeah, it becomes all about protecting your ego.
instead of growing and learning.
And our sources say that companies that really value learning, experimentation, and effort, they tend to have higher morale.
And better performance.
So even in a job interview, you can get a sense of a candidate's mindset.
Yeah, if you ask about past failures.
You're not looking for someone who's never made a mistake.
Right.
You're looking for someone who can reflect on those experiences
Learn from them.
and show how they've grown.
Exactly.
So the big question then is, can you actually develop a growth mindset?
Can you change the way you think about your abilities?
And our sources are optimistic.
They are. It's definitely possible.
It takes effort,
And it's a journey.
but it's achievable.
So what are some strategies?
So one of the first things is to pay attention to your self-talk.
Yeah, catch yourself when you're having those negative thoughts.
Like, I can't do this.
Or I'm not good enough.
And add the word yet.
I can't do this yet.
It shifts the perspective from a fixed limitation to something you're still learning.
It's a subtle but powerful shift.
And another strategy is to celebrate effort and progress.
Not just outcomes.
So recognize the hard work you're putting in.
The strategies you're using.
And what you're learning along the way.
Even if you don't achieve perfection.
Because perfection isn't the goal.
It's about the journey of growth.
Reframing failure is also key.
Oh yeah, big one.
Instead of seeing mistakes as a sign of weakness,
See them as valuable information.
ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
What can I do differently next time?
And our sources also say that it's really helpful to surround yourself with people who have a growth mindset.
Yeah, because mindsets can be contagious.
Being around people who embrace challenges and value learning,
It could be really inspiring.
it can help you stay motivated and accountable.
And when you're interacting with others, especially kids or people you're mentoring,
Yeah.
use process praise.
So instead of just saying, you're so smart, you might say, I really appreciate how much effort you put into this.
Or you came up with some really creative strategies.
And finally, our sources really emphasize the importance of being patient with yourself.
Yeah, this is a journey.
It takes time and effort.
Be kind to yourself.
There will be ups and downs.
But just keep learning. Keep trying.
Our sources even shared some everyday examples,
Oh yeah, like what?
like someone who thought they were a terrible cook,
Yeah,
but through practice and experimentation,
they became pretty good.
or someone who struggled with coding,
Right.
but with persistence and the right resources.
They became a software engineer.
But even if you don't see results right away,
Consistent effort over time can lead to amazing growth.
and for those of you who want to learn more, our sources recommend some great books.
Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Grit by Angela Duckworth,
Peak by Anders Ericsson.
and Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Those are all classics.
And if you prefer online learning,
Coursera, Skillshare, Duolingo, those are all great options.
so as we wrap up,
Yeah.
the key takeaway is that your brain is capable of incredible growth.
And the limits you think you have.
They're often not as fixed as you might believe.
The stories you tell yourself really matter.
Embracing a growth mindset is not just about achieving success,
It's about becoming a lifelong learner
being more resilient in the face of challenges.
and constantly striving to improve.
So think about your own learning journey for a minute. What are some areas where you might be holding on to a fixed mindset?
Yeah,
What's one small step you can take today?
to start cultivating a growth mindset in that area.
What do you want to grow in your life?
That's the question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.